Has this ever happened to you? You're in the middle of working on a project and realize you need access to a specific piece of software from your organization. You're directed to put in a request to IT, then need to wait for the ticket to make its way through the queue and get a response, and eventually your request is fulfilled and the software is delivered to your computer. Meanwhile, you weren't able to make any progress on your project while waiting for the tools you needed to be successful. Using self-service for macOS and policies from Jamf Pro, we can completely eliminate that process, providing immediate access to a large suite of tools for our users to download whenever they may need them. This is Jeremy. Welcome to Policies and Self-Service. Typically, policies are created and run with well-defined parameters. When this trigger happens, deliver this payload exactly this number of times to computers in scope. This is great for one-time deployments or actions that need to happen at regular intervals. However, if we want to make certain software, scripts, or profiles available to our users to install at their leisure, we need to configure those policies to be made available in the self-service app. Self-service policies differ from other policies in that they have no defined trigger, since the act of the user selecting the policy on their device serves as the trigger to run the policy. Additionally, we can safely make the policy available on an ongoing basis, so users have access to that policy even after it's been run once. As an example, let's create a policy we can place in self-service that will restart a user's computer to help with troubleshooting if they are having issues. From the Jamf Pro dashboard, navigate to Computers and Policies. Click New to create a new policy. As with any policy, start by entering an appropriate display name. I'm calling mine Restart Troubleshooting. Then assign a category if desired. Next, we'd usually define a trigger for the policy, some event or action that takes place on the user's computer that initiates this policy. Since this policy will live in self-service, the trigger event will be the user clicking on the policy themselves, so we don't need to define a trigger in Jamf Pro. Moving on, we need to assign an execution frequency for this policy. I'm choosing Ongoing from that menu. Typically, we'd want to be very careful using an ongoing execution frequency with a policy that has a trigger selected. This could lead to situations where, instead of a policy running once the next time a computer checks in, it would run every time the computer checks in perpetuity. Alternatively, if we were to use a one-time execution frequency with this self-service policy, once per computer for example, it won't appear again in self-service after it's been run. Jamf Pro sees that the policy has run once on that computer, has fulfilled the frequency requirement, and thus removes the policy from self-service. The policy log can be flushed at this point to restore the policy to self-service, but there is an easier option for repeated use. Instead, to make this policy available for our users whenever they may need it, we can choose an ongoing frequency so the policy will remain in self-service as long as it's enabled in Jamf Pro. Now for the payload. Select Restart options from the list on the left, then click Configure. Leave the option for Standard Restart selected. We probably want to reboot to the current startup disk here, and if no user is logged in, they're not going to be running a policy from self-service, so we won't need to worry about that menu. Click the User Logged In action pop-up menu and choose Restart. Below that, we can perform an authenticated restart, meaning if the user is not File Vault enabled, they'll still be able to log back in. We can also specify a delay in minutes before the restart occurs. I'm entering 0, so the restart happens right when the policy is run. That's all we need to configure for our policy options. Next, let's move on to the Self-Service tab at the top. Start by selecting the checkbox to make the policy available in self-service. There are a number of options to configure here to customize how the policy appears on users' devices. First is the self-service display name. By default, this field uses the display name entered in the general payload of the Options tab. However, we can change how this appears for users by entering something here like Computer Maintenance Restart. Next, we can change the name for the button that users click to initiate the policy and then subsequent runs afterward. I'm changing both of these to Restarts Now. Moving on, we can add a short description for the policy and ensure users are shown that description before they run the policy. I've prepared a short description warning my users to save any open work before running the policy that I'm pasting into the field now, and selecting the checkbox to ensure users are shown the description. Below this, we can enable notifications for this policy to alert users when it becomes available. Notifications for self-service have some requirements in order to work. like a valid push certificate and proxy server token, and push notifications enabled in Jamf Pro settings. For this policy, I don't need my users to immediately know that we've added it to self-service, so I'm leaving the notification checkbox unselected. Moving on, we can also customize the icon that appears in self-service for this policy. I've already prepared an icon file using the recommended 512 by 512 file size, so I'm clicking Upload Icon, choose File, and locating that file on my computer. Once selected, click Upload to upload the icon to Jamf Pro. Next, we can organize where this policy appears in self-service by category. I'm selecting the checkbox to include the policy in the featured category so users can see it right away when opening self-service, as well as selecting the Help Tools category checkbox. That's all we need to configure for the Self-Service tab. The User Interaction tab can be used to configure additional messaging that appears for users. Since we're forcing users to view the description I pasted just a bit ago, let's let that take precedence and leave the User Interaction tab as is. Finally, navigate to the Scope tab. I'd like to give everyone access to this policy if they need it, so I'm choosing all computers from the Target Computers pop-up menu. With the scope set, we can click Save in the bottom right to deploy the policy. Let's check our work on a test computer. I'm opening the Self-Service app and can see the policy along with our custom icon right away in the Featured category. Click Restart and our description appears before the policy runs. Click Restart once more and the policy runs, restarting my computer. That's all there is to it. Utilizing self-service is an important part of empowering your users, allowing access to software, printers, policies, or settings they need right when they need them. As we saw in our example, using self-service can also lighten the load for your IT team, reducing the number of requests or tickets sent by users since they're able to access what they need right on their own computer. Be sure to experiment with creating self-service policies and check out the Jamf Pro documentation for a full list of settings, capabilities, and customizations that are available. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in another video.